please come by. That's it. I love getting feedback. Thank you very much. Do we have time for questions?
Well, actually, we're just in time, but because there's no presentation after this, we can still do a few questions.
Cool.
I would say
Questions?
come to the sides, to the microphones, and pose your question.
Or if you don't want to go to the mic, I'll shout it out for you.
Which Chomsky class is the language we constructed in?
What language, sorry?
The Fulang.
Fulang? What?
Yeah, we constructed this Fulang.
P.
Yeah, P. Which Chomsky class is it in?
Chomsky?
Chomsky? Noam Chomsky?
Oh, Chomsky. What about Chomsky?
Yeah, which class?
Klaus?
Class.
Klaus?
Chomsky class? You never heard of Chomsky classes?
Let's talk later. I don't know what you're referring to.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Questions? Yes?
For the next time, why don't you try, instead of George's code, some tongue twister?
A tongue twister.
Fischers Fritze fischt frische Fische and stuff.
I thought of doing that. The reason is I've got not a fucking clue what you guys are going to add as my phonology. And it's hard to make up a tongue twister on the fly. The reason I used Georg was I knew it would break in the phonology that we used. And I wanted to demonstrate that languages have different sound systems, and you can't just import a foreign word directly. Like, for example, in Japan, McDonald's isn't called McDonald's. They have actually a very similar phonotactic rule. It's called Makudunararudu. And that's because they have to have a vowel after each consonant. And I just wanted to demonstrate that instead of explaining it.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? No? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Big applause.
So, if you want to learn more... Oh, you have a question. Yes. Go.
How many languages do you speak?
I speak English, Spanish, French, Russian, American Sign Language fluently enough to have a conversation. I can get by in Japanese, and I've learned Arabic and Mandarin, but I've forgotten almost all of it. Ich spreche kein Deutsch, though.
Okay, one last question.
Okay.
How many Conlangs? I don't speak any Conlangs fluently, but I'm working on the two that I mentioned, and I know a fair amount about the linguistics of quite a few Conlangs. Yes?
So we made a language, and of course it's kind of a quick mock-up thingy. So compared to not on the Con language, but to the actual spoken languages on the world, what's the weirdness or complexity of this language? Like, where does it fit from 1 to 100 or something like that?
So let's see. The phonology is fairly weird. So I didn't completely round it out. For example, it's really rare for a language to have just one click. We only have the one click. But real languages that have clicks tend to have multiple clicks, like for example, I can't do clicks very well. What else is weird? The brr is the only trill that we have. Or, sorry, no, it's not. We also have the so I guess that's not too bad. I would suspect that a normal language would also have r, but it might not have it contrastively. It'd probably have it allophonically. The phonological rules are pretty normal. Agglutination and VSO are very, very common. The words that we have, so let's say, what is so if fix is ptkia and a is future, so fix means like will hack, I guess. And if ptk is hacker, or maybe it's hack also, and key is some sort of suffix, and pt is code, so code plus what is hacker, so maybe make or change or something like that. So this is actually pretty reasonable. The word world is kind of weird, but it's not unheard of for a language that has clicks, other than what I mentioned about a language that has clicks would actually probably have more clicks that are contrastive. But it's not totally out there. It's weird. You guys wanted weird, so that's what we went for. But, you know, yeah.
I have another question.
Yo, go.
Because I am a native Spanish speaker, and this thing of that we cannot say words like with SP, like Spain or speaker, and there are other languages that cannot say other words, and I wanted to. When I am I live in Amsterdam, so people makes a lot of fun because like I like stoned and all this, and I say, yeah, we cannot pronounce it like that. And they say, what do you mean you cannot pronounce it? Okay, I can say Spain, but why? I don't understand really why is it that in my mind structure don't allow me to do this. And I would like to know what you think about if this is the language I learned my mother language.
When did you first learn English?
When I don't know, around I didn't speak fluently English until I was 18 or.
Okay, but not before you were, say, 7? No? Okay. So, yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I was talking about with the Georg thing, right? This idea of phonological rules are actually really, really inherent to how people inherently think of language. And it's reflexive. You won't realize that you're doing it unless you study linguistics or unless you study a lot of foreign languages and try to actually speak them well instead of just speaking everything with an American accent or a German accent, as the case may be. And what you're doing is you're applying your phonological rules to other languages' words. So, for example, if I were a stupid American trying to speak Spanish, instead of saying yo voy a España mañana, I might say yo voy a España mañana, which is about how you would say that in English. And that's a case of sort of misapplying your native rules to a foreign language. And it's actually pretty hard to learn all the phonological rules of a foreign language, because people who do it for real do it just reflexively. It's not something they're thinking of, like, oh, I need to aspirate this P. I bet none of you who speak English, unless you're linguists, knew about that aspiration rule until I told you to try putting your hand in front of your mouth and saying spit versus pit. But you do it. You learn it, and it's reflexive. And if you're trying to learn a foreign language, it's not reflexive until you learn it.
Now, the other part of the question is that if this effect that it has on my brain and the connections it does, it would make a difference to speak some languages or other for logical operations or for, I don't know, Alzheimer or something.
Logical operations of what?
If these different phonological rules and the structure of the language I think on are going to affect the way I see the world or I do mathematical operations or...
Okay, so there's actually a really famous theory in linguistics called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis by Benjamin Whorf and I forget what Sapir's first name was. But there's a strong and a weak version, and it's been sort of controversial. But the simple version of what it means is the language that you speak shapes the way you think. So the hypothesis is that you think in language. This isn't actually always true. I don't think in language, I think abstractly. But most people experience their thought as sort of a running monologue, right? You're thinking in words.